Hey, what's going on, everybody? How's it going? How's it going? I'm going to be looking to the right for the chat, but what a day. Currently, the Dow, just a little lift up, I don't know, 540 points. The NASDAQ fighting back to get positive, now up around 11 points. S&P doing well, up 33. And the Russell, the good old IWM up 1.8%. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here today. So, it's certainly interesting. Day after NVIDIA earnings, NVIDIA's initial reaction was to go negative. Their forward revenue guidance for the first time didn't beat expectations by billions of dollars, billions and billions. The first time that sent NVIDIA, their first earnings report that sent NVIDIA to the moon, they were what, like 8 billion above expectations, then 4, then 2. And now their expectations are plus minus 2%, pretty much in line with what Wall Street expected. Their low end would be lower than expectations, but if it hits that higher end, it would be better than expectations. But this is we're getting to this tipping point with the markets where Bitcoin, hello. We'll talk about crypto names in just a bit, but we're getting to this tipping point where something has to give. There's been a lot of volatility in the markets. May not be noticeable depending on what stocks you've been trading. There's been a lot of growth stocks, a lot of what we would say late bloomers starting to bloom now. And then, of course, names like Google, Amazon, Apple, Meta struggling. Netflix out of the Magnificent Seven is doing just fine. Don't worry about them. But it's the others. You throw Microsoft into that name. It's a pretty interesting kind of development that's been happening here. Ah, looks like Gary Gensler plans to step down from the agency in January, right in time for Bitcoin to blast through 100,000 and for Trump to take office. Funny how that works. So let's get right into it here. BTC to the moon. Long NVIDIA here. We'll get touch up on that in just a second here. Let me just pull this up here. Can everybody see? What I really wanted to talk about today wasn't just the effect of NVIDIA, but what's on my radar. 2024, ladies and gentlemen, you could say has been the year of the AI play, right? The semiconductors in particular, the component makers, the server makers, and etc. Those are the ones that have benefited, incredibly from AI. But, is that going to be the resounding play going into 2025? And I have some reservations about how much more the AI play is going to extend out. However, there is a byproduct of the AI industry that I feel is going to be the sector to watch for 2025. And that is going to be the cloud names, okay? Now, cloud is really important. Obviously, it's in our everyday lives. We already know about Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. And I believe they're going to be great beneficiaries of this demand or increasing demand for server power, etc. But, we've had some struggles with names like Snowflake. Datadog just made new 52-week highs. Mongo is trying to come back to life. Cybersecurity names outside of Palo Alto have faltered a bit. We obviously knew the issues with CrowdStrike. Zscaler fell back off earnings. They're coming back. Fortinet as well. Okta as well. But, I feel like we forget that the huge, rally in tech was substantiated and really enforced by not only the Magnificent Seven over the last few years, but its cloud names. And I feel like cloud hasn't gotten their due since COVID. Particular, a lot of the names have struggled. And so this is where I could see in 2025 these stocks getting back to where they were. And if you don't know what I mean by that, well, names like Mongo jumping up 150 points for the calendar year wouldn't surprise me. Snowflake, I don't think they're going to double up, but certainly they have the potential. and Datadog, but we're also looking at names like Pure Storage, PSTG, Upwork, UPWK, NTNX, Palantir. These are all names that are certainly starting to wake up and perform well, but they aren't being talked about enough. So I'm not suggesting for you to pilot into these names now, but keep these names on your radar. I think that these are the names, this is the sector that's going to be a huge leader in 2025. And we have a lot of things to look for in 2025. Now, I'm going to pull up NVIDIA really quick just to help answer that question. Is NVIDIA a buy here? Well, I don't know. It depends. What are you looking for? For me, with NVIDIA, I am never one to say, let's buy at the peak value. However, on this pullback, if you notice, look at where we have found a lot of support. This has been earlined, this 140 level, as a very big level of interest. This used to be the previous resistance level where NVIDIA essentially has broken out from. So it wouldn't surprise me. We're at the 20 SMA, we're at a descending trend line, and this could be a great pivot point. NVIDIA still has to break through 145 and really recover, but this has already told me the fact that they made new all-time highs, breaking that 150 level, that 149.77 level, that they are primed to make a move. And if they're primed to make a move, well, that means we're looking at 155, 160, 175. Who the heck knows with NVIDIA? Obviously, the production of Blackwell, they've talked about the constraints with Blackwell, and they plan on getting Blackwell shipped out third, fourth quarter of 2025. Obviously the booking orders are going to be important for the stock, but the end of the game is the Nasdaq going to continue? In my opinion, yes. Will NVIDIA be a part of that? Absolutely. Now, again, kind of feeding back to what I started with, I'm not so sure that NVIDIA is going to be the leader they were in 2024 and 2025. Especially if cloud's going to be making that run. I believe that names like Amazon and Microsoft are going to kind of take hold and bring us on back up. And certainly there's a case to be made in that instance and in the near term. It's certainly interesting because one of the things that I was discussing with my rooms yesterday before Snowflake's earnings, SNOW, I'll pull it up right now. This is a stock that's been kind of stuck in the doldrums. They've been really just consolidating. They started sparking up just a bit leading into the earnings report. And based on the projected move, it was going to put them above this threshold right here where the smallest box is. And this is why I was, actively talking about, 155, 160 upside. Maybe in the best case scenario, they're going to go to 170. Well, they're through 170 now. They dotted at 174.65. Overextended much? Yeah, 100%. But this now opens the door to what's known as a massive profit pocket. And if you don't know what I'm pointing at, folks, well, how many of you in the chat know what a gap fill is? How many of you in the chat know what a gap fill is? BTC 150,000. Well, they got to get to 100,000 first. And I'll talk about that in just a second, but I wholeheartedly believe we're not going to just see 150. We're going to see way beyond that threshold, but we'll talk about that in just a second. What up, Ricardo, my man? What up, baby? Okay, so not everybody knows what gap fills are. Now, the gap fill, just to kind of break down, it's a large discrepancy between the closing and the following day's opening price. So you can see Snowflake was trading where that upper arrow is, and then the following day they opened where that bottom arrow is. So there is a large discrepancy between the closing price and the previous day's opening price. Now, the school of thought when it comes to trading is that all gaps eventually get filled. And so what gap fills tend to be is a very transparent and very visual representation of where a stock could go directionally. And more importantly, when stocks start making that move, right, they start pushing to fill the gap to the upside or the downside. I mean, buyers and sellers tend to stay away. The idea is that, again, if Snowflake continues to push, the trajectory and the kind of end game is that buyers are looking to fill the gap. And sellers, recognizing that, tend to be very shy in trying to fade the stock. Now, this is a tall task. We're talking about 60 points. This isn't going to happen anytime soon. Um, but there are reasons, right, fundamentally, of course, for Snowflake to recover back to this range. Obviously, earnings is number one. Number two, something that's not talked about a lot with Snowflake, but that's been announced over their last few earnings reports, is a very aggressive buyback. And, you know, when a company like Microsoft announces a buyback, they're like, yeah, we're going to do a $20 billion buyback. But the problem is they don't have an expiration period. So they could effectively do a $20 billion buyback over the next 100 years. It doesn't matter. The news is to, move the needle. Well, Snowflake actually has one buyback expiring in March of 2025. And I believe the next one is designed either for 2027 or 2028, also in the range of around $10 billion. So now if we look, well, Snowflake has been shooting these profit pockets pretty aggressively. And now that we're above this last upper tier, we need to recognize that there's nothing that's really standing in the way of Snowflake making this move. And hence, this is why I'm thinking in 2025, cloud could be tremendous because Snowflake is a very popular name among retail traders and institutions. Palantir broke 45. They're at all-time highs. They have nothing but open space. And now we are seeing effectively the ability of Snowflake rising pretty rapidly over the next few months to shoot for that gap fill. So just kind of take this video, take it for what it's worth, but just keep it on your radar here over the next few months. Watch it. And if it does end up filling this gap, well, guess what? Either you have the ability of benefiting from what we're talking about here, or you're going to use that information and learn from it and apply that the next time that we see an opportunity that presents itself. Again, history loves to repeat itself at some point in some time. It may not be with the exact same stock, but these scenarios all play out. A lot of us at Prosper, for me, obviously, I care about some of the fundamentals, etc. But, I like to kind of consider things as rinse, wash, repeat. Stocks behavior tends to be very similar, especially when they're very liquid. And they showcase institutional interest, for example, like a stock like Snowflake, and it's very consistent in relation to like looking at the same levels, understanding the trading behavior at these levels, and then understanding the outcomes once that occurs. So these are really important. So yeah, the NASDAQ, we were talking about them bottoming out. If I want to, let's just kind of break this out from a day trading standpoint. Let me pull in this chart as well. So if I pull up my day trading chart here and we pull up the Qs, and by the way, I love Kava. Kava has a beautiful profit pocket. A lot of the times markets like to move in threes. So here's your first, second, and third drop. So as the stock was trending down, stuck underneath the volume weighted average price, I want you to take a look at the RSI. The RSI was showing divergence. So it made a lot of sense that at this point, at the, what we would say in this instance, head, body, leg, and when we look for moves up, it would be leg, body, head, right? Moves of three, that there would be a potential pivot. And once it really started to occur, we got and started anchoring above the VWAP, which is bullish, and now we're in this bullish state. Look, now we're finding acceptance in this bullish SATI. And I'll tell you, folks, I think if the Qs make new highs, it's like another trading day is going to start up. It's as if like whatever happened previously didn't occur, and we could actually see the NASDAQ hit a breakout mid to late day, which just generally doesn't happen without news, but it feels different today. Volume is really good. The interest and activity in the market's really good. Everybody's excited about Bitcoin and crypto and making a lot of money from that venture as well. So why don't we let's talk about crypto here. I'm going to pull these back really quick. Get them off your screen, Charlie. All right, now let's get to our next topic, crypto stocks. So these are generally the most popular names that have direct ties to Bitcoin and other crypto assets, right? So this is really important. And yes, the Qs and Apple will tend to have very similar charts. Apple usually the biggest market cap. This is the retail darling, Bitcoin miner, where Coinbase is a custodial slash exchange. MicroStrategies, I don't know what the hell they do besides just buy and hold Bitcoin. IBIT is a custodial slash ETF. It's an investment vehicle. But, there's certainly other names that we want to be aware of. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with these names. So, one of them is going to be Riot. I'm sure a lot of people know about Riot. Clean Spark CLSK. How many of you know about IREN? HUT, Hive, BTCM, BTBT, and there's plenty of more out there. We could even add names like Cypher. These are really low caps. But how many of you know about these names? IREN is one of those names that I really, really like. And there's one last name that I want you to focus on, which has gotten extremely volatile over the last week, and that's BKKT. BKKT at one point used to actually handle the crypto processing or crypto payments for Starbucks. If you actually opened up your Starbucks app about a year ago, it would say powered by BAKKT. I don't think Starbucks accepts cryptocurrency anymore. I checked the other day. But at one point in time, Starbucks did. And if anything, folks, you're going to start seeing more and more retailers actually look to potentially accept more crypto payments, which in turn is only going to be better for crypto. But, what are we to make of all of these stocks? Well, I'll tell you right now, the biggest names that are going to benefit are the ETFs. I IBIT, BITO, BITU, Bravo, India, Tango, Oscar. That's one of the first and most popular ones. We obviously have GBTC, ETHF, I think. But, my favorite one, which is not liquid at all, I was just talking about it, and I believe has by far the greatest ticker symbol of any asset that's been ever created. Is it going to type? Is this? That doesn't look good. Let me put it up over here. It's this. It's an ETF by Vanek called HODL, or HODL. And for those that don't know, that's a very popular crypto saying. A lot of obviously the internet, typists, sometimes when they're typing fast, they could misspell words. So it used to be in forums and chats where people would be like, hold, HOD, HOLD. But then people started mistyping it, and then they started typing in HODL as opposed to HOLD. And then all of a sudden, it became a war cry for the crypto sector and those that have long been involved in crypto. And for those that don't know, they ended up actually utilizing this war cry in relation to when GME and AMC started going parabolic. And they would say HODL, or it would stand short for hold on for dear life. I love it, So what do we make for this? Here's the thing. We haven't seen the likes of CLSK, Marathon, Riot, IREN, HUT, Hive, etc. really take off yet. Are they rising? Yes, they are. But they are nowhere near the same degree as MSTR and Coin. So very quickly, what I'm going to do is let's pull up MSTR. Let's pull up MSTR. So if you look at MSTR here, I mean, it's a beautiful chart. It looks like what a crypto chart when it gets parabolic looks like, okay? So it's a beautiful, lovely chart. That's what we want because that's what crypto has been doing. Now, if we relate that to Mara, well, Mara has been fairly active over the last few days, but if you notice, they haven't even gotten above their recent highs back in July and August. So you're wondering, why hasn't Mara blown up like MSTR and others? Well, folks, we need to understand, and the great Howard Greenberg explained this to me, and it made a ton of sense. Bitcoin had an event, what was known as a halvening. Okay. So the halvening is actually a big negative for the miners because they essentially have to work twice as hard for the same gains. Or if they mine at the same amount, they're going to get half of what they used to do. So, in order for Marathon and IREN and Riot Holdings and CLSK to explode here, guess what? The value of Bitcoin has to go parabolic. And so this 100K threshold is extremely important. Even there, I don't know if anybody knows who Marquise Brownlee is, but he's been very active in talking about this Bitcoin push. But he said today, because this is his assumption, and this is a lot of people's assumption, how far is Bitcoin going to drop from this $100,000 price once they get there? And if people don't know, it's widely known, okay? And if you don't know, well, this is going to be new information. It's widely known. There are billions of dollars of resting orders at 100,000 for buyers to take profits and or short sellers to get in. And yes, people are still trying to short Bitcoin. And yes, they're doing it with leveraged assets on exchanges. And here's the thing. It is extremely likely that we're going to touch 100,000 and then probably dump back to 90, maybe even 85. Hell, it could come all the way down to 75. It is Bitcoin. But there is a scenario where it breaks 100,000 and it slowly inches up, and then all of a sudden the short sellers realize that it's not going down, and then all of a sudden these leveraged assets are getting margined and stopped out, and next thing you know, we go from 101, 102, 105, and then the squeeze hits, and we could potentially be at 125, even as high as 150,000 in a blink of an eye. And it sounds nutty to say things like that. But if you think back at the beginning of this year, when we got up to the 70,000, 72, 73,000, and then we dropped back to 33, everybody's like, oh, it's over. It's over. We got suckered again. It's over. And yet here we are, marching back, blowing past the highs. Folks, we took out those highs, okay? That was key resistance, and we didn't look back. All of a sudden now we're trading at 98,000. Here we are, knocking on the door of 100,000. And I'm telling you, folks, this is just the start. People think that they are too late. No. And I'll explain why. And I'll keep this brief and I'll explain why. 3 things that are going to occur here that's going to not only put in a floor, but also choke the supply chain where it could forcibly move Bitcoin up a tremendous amount. Number 1, Michael Saylor. If you don't know who he is, he runs, owns, etc., MSTR. His plan is to raise $42 billion in at-the-market offerings for MSTR stock to utilize that money to buy more Bitcoin. And in fact, he just made an offering of $4.2 billion. And you know what he did? He bought $4.2 billion of Bitcoin at a cost average price of $88,000. Number two, the POTUS Trump. Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Now, this is a bit tricky because number one, the United States already has a ton of Bitcoin. Silk Road is where they got the majority of the Bitcoin. But, you know, anytime they've arrested criminals and those criminals have had cryptocurrency assets, well, they've confiscated it. So right now, the United States market is actually sitting on a ton of Bitcoin. That's going to be used for their reserve strategy. Now, if they continue to want to buy and add on to their surplus, the same thing that we do with crude oil, well, that too means now we have Michael Saylor plus the United States government wanting to buy Bitcoin. And number three, institutions, most notably BlackRock. Now, we understand, I think most people understand how incredibly powerful that this institutional firm is. They were the first, right? They're the first to really offer it up to clients. So how much longer before Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Citibank, and JP Morgan Chase, which only offers it to their extremely top high-end clients, how much longer before all of these other institutions decide to go head first into crypto? The reason why a lot of these banks aren't touching it is because of Gary Gensler. Well, I just said about 15 minutes ago that the good old Gary Gensler is now gone in January. And in fact, the rumored SEC head is either a old crypto advocate, aka a lawyer for crypto, and someone that's been heavily involved in the industry, or it's probably going to be someone else who's also pro crypto. So, you know, when we kind of outline it and really see the, you know, the moment where we're at, yeah, the miners haven't behaved just yet, but they will. Bitcoin may stop at 100,000 momentarily, but it'll get above. And we have to remember, this is just the start. There's a finite amount of Bitcoin. It's not an endless supply. We just can't make more Bitcoin. So we need to understand that there is a set amount of supply. And as more people buy and hold, as institutions buy and hold, supply gets thinner and thinner in the open markets. And if demand increases, well, economics 101, folks, right? Low supply, high demand equals what? Low supply, high demand equals what? To the moon! To the moon, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so looks like I'm a little behind, so sorry about that. Today's word of the day is moonshot. Fitting, right? Fitting that we're talking about the word of the day being moonshot when we're talking in relation to crypto. So do me a favor, folks. Spam that chat with the word moonshot. Keep it going in that chat. And also, if you liked what you're hearing, you know, please do me a favor. Click that thumbs up button, okay? I asked for it the other day. I'm asking for it again. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. I am here sitting in for the great Scott Bauer. He hosts an incredible show. I am just a mere shadow of his presence, but hopefully I can live up to his big, big shadow. And ladies and gentlemen, if you love the information that you hear from us every day being live streamed. And guess what? Scott's going to start doing more live streams from the exchange itself. Make sure that you are on top of it. Subscribe, click that notification button so you are always alerted to when we're coming online. And like I said, give us a thumbs up if you like what you heard. So, moonshot, folks. Let me see it. There's a lot of you in this chat. Moonshot. Don't forget, we're going to get the wheel set up here soon. The word of the day. So listen, my bad, Michael. There's no rush. Don't rush, by the way, because I still have a little bit more to talk about. Folks, I want you to also be aware that there's been a lot of news. Now, RBLX had news under SEC investigation, but it hasn't had too much of an ill effect on the stock. They are trying to bounce, and they're trying to bounce at a key support level at 48. So if they don't hold 48s, your next level to watch for a pivot is 46. Love it. The great legend Scott Bowers looking at Google for a pivot. So far, he may have absolutely nailed the freaking bottom of Google, by the way. Great trade, Sib. He was looking at this. Look at this. 163.56 is where the 200-day simple moving average is. Today's low is 163.70. We basically tickled that exact number and currently now off of that level here at 166.77. And let's go back to MSTR. If you've ever heard of Citron Research and Andrew Luff, let me in you on something. These guys are clowns, but they announced a short report on MSTR, which is what's affected MSTR to the downside. We're looking for a bounce right now. They're holding on that 50 EMA. And this also came into the closing price, which is a small gap, the closing price of November 19th. So it's basically has pivoted from this level and looking to work higher. Markets are in a good spot. We keep on going up. VIX is only down 27 cents, but let's go to the moon, ladies and gentlemen. So the wheel is now closed. We're just going to give Michael a few minutes. Folks, it's my fault. Michael, it's my fault. And listen, it's really not my fault because I don't do this that often. So we just need a few minutes to get the names on the wheel. It is a little difficult. And obviously, we missed someone's name yesterday. That was pointed out to us directly. So, we don't want to get into trouble again today. What are your thoughts, folks? Who thinks that we're going to see 100,000 on Bitcoin today? Let's say before midnight tonight. How many of you think that we're going to be doing it? I'll tell you one thing. There's a chance that we wake up tomorrow and start the day in the markets with Bitcoin trading at $111,000. Like this, like 111071. I don't know what the 7 is for. How many of you think that we could hit 100K tonight? Listen, folks, there's a little poll that just came up. Do me a favor, folks. Vote on that poll. Let me know. My bad, Michael. I owe you one, brother. Thank you. Okay, and now what everybody's been somewhat waiting for. Whoops, that's not it. That's not it. This is it. Let me do this. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. I'm giving everybody just a second to vote. I like the 100K by midnight. Moment of truth, folks. Good luck, everybody. Cheers to the winner. Cheers to Bitcoin getting to 100K by tonight. And the winner of today's swag is it's Karen. Karen, I don't know. Karen with no last name. Karen with no last name. please do us a favor, reach out to us. I believe that they are going to um, put that info into the chat if someone can, please, and thank you. I think the email is prosperswag@prospertrading.com. Congratulations, Karen, and congratulations to our previous winners. Folks, listen, if you want Prosper Swag, tune in every day, get your name on the list. Listen, we've had repeat winners, so you could get a whole new wardrobe from us at some point in time. Share it with your friends and family. We even had a winner on back-to-back days, so we would love to see it. I don't want to keep you folks too long, but I do want to say thank you for your time. And again, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, click on the notifications. The great Scott Bauer will be back tomorrow. We'll see if Bitcoin is going to go to the moon or kind of tickle the moon and come back to Earth and then go back to the moon. It's going to be fun times, folks. Hopefully, everybody is crushing it. Just want to say thank you. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for hanging around. Peace and love. Until next time.